whether your strategy is aimed at making meaningful difference, whether the structure gives people for making difference, is your company aimed at building something, or you just still want to compete with somebody? Had these companies decided to compete with somebody, they would not have created the kind of new markets that they have. And do you have enough information available? Cash is important, but still, it is the information that makes the major difference. Now, what evidence to look forward to? You should look forward to evidences whether it's a structural or a cyclical change. Many times there are so many changes which take place, but they are only cyclical, they are not structural. And sometimes the cyclical changes become structural over a period of time. So at that time, you have to understand whether they are going to last that long or they are not going to last long. Like, it happens everywhere. Even in a farm also, many times what we see that we do not find it easy to get farm workers. Because these farm workers go in the city and work in the construction industry, and then they will come back again when there is a work at the farm. Because farm workers, they don't have all 12 months of a job. But today, that cyclical problem is becoming more structural. Because they are more and more happy working in the cities, in the construction industries, than working in the farm. And then it becomes structural. So what is that you are going to do about it? Do you have a strategy to work on that? If yes, probably you are giving right answers to people. Similarly, creation of options. It's always better to create multiple options. If you have options, then maybe what you will see that, okay, today this is what is happening, next this is what is likely to happen, and then this is what will happen. So probably create more number of options. And of late, Kaun Banega Crorepati has made us more comfortable with options, isn't it? So that's another thing. And then forces that are truly dynamic. So what is your second, third, and fourth order effect? So first order effect would be this. I must change that immediately. Second order, third order. And if you look at what Patanjali has done, they have concentrated very heavily on that. They are getting into every possible business that they can. And virtually not following a genetic code per se. The only genetic code that they are following right now is of national sentiments. That's it. Otherwise, if you look at the product categories that they are entering into, it's mind-blowing. But they are looking at the multiple second, third, fourth, etc. Similarly, improving processes. There always is an inertia to overcome something. That static inertia is always very, very high. So improving processes. Then insights from big data. Today, data analytics is assuming a lot of importance. So whatever big data that we have, we need to bring it for making meaningful differences. That's what most of the times I feel that what people are today doing is that they are analyzing your social networking sites, what are your likes, what are dislikes, and a one full page paper gives complete information what personality that person is. So today this big data analytics is important and new or poorly understood before it is too late. So we have to always understand this risk very, very fast. If you do not appreciate these risks and take corrective measures, probably going out of business is certain. Now, are all existing frameworks still relevant? This is what happens. It's funny how day by day nothing changes, but when you look back, everything is different. So which evidence really to look for? And it's the dynamics of that. When the environment changes profoundly, the maps also change. So even Nagpur also, if we just follow the Nagpur map of 10 years back, and today, it would be very, very difficult. So look at what contemporariness of the information. If the information is very, very contemporary, that's going to help. But if it is not contemporary, that's not going to help. The existing frameworks are created for a stable and mostly a definable world. Over a period, as I said earlier also, they are losing their relevance, and in certain cases, maybe they are even misleading also. And there is a speedier diffusion of technology. So let's just look at the way, even before we were completely engrossed into 3G, the 4G came in. And many people probably from 2G had straight gone to 4G. Practically our generation has seen everything, like a PC, from PC you have moved to laptop, then to a notebook, then probably to a handset, smartphone. Today the new generation is straight going on to the handsets. So they're unlikely to use all these things, and then they will keep wondering that how could you evolve through. So there is a speedier diffusion of technology, and there is a growing and intense competition. That's why most of the times I say that there is no competition in the market. It's only rivalry. So either you live or I live. So competition is an understatement. It's difficult to say that there is a competition in the market. It's an understatement to say that markets are competitive. And then there is huge internationalization as well. And then increased concern over the business and social environmental responsibilities. If you look at how many NGOs are after your organization because you're not following some environmental norms or the other. And the government also makes sure that you follow all of them. And with the digitization, it will be increasingly difficult to do away with any of these things. It will be very, very critical. Another major thing that's going to happen is putting vertical pressure on your employees will also be difficult. There is a limit to which people can absorb vertical pressure. So people will have to develop more and more, and that development will have to come through their skills. Now, when we talk about it, let's see, what that picture I wanted to depict is that it is not your diagnosing skills. It's also your experience, it is also your managerial skills, and also take help of artificial intelligence. But something you see there as a robotic, it's artificial intelligence. Today, it's very, very powerful tool. We wonder whether there is artificial intelligence or no, but I would suggest you check the chess players the way they are developing themselves. They are no more playing with another grandmaster. They would love to play with a program computer. And most of these program computers are beating every chess player in the world. Because the way they have been done, that artificial intelligence is very speed oriented today, so it can analyze more than 20 million moves in a second. And though chess is a highly predictable game, it's extremely predictable game. Despite that, what decision you make at that particular moment, based on the evidence of the position of the pieces, the same thing applies here. So what I'm suggesting here is that it's quite important to have the effective framework that pulls together different views into a comprehensive picture. So don't just look at one framework or the other. Bring all frameworks together. As I said, that look at the evidence that is available. So whether to go for a 7S framework, whether to go for the Porter's framework or any other framework, today the organizations need to pull some of these frameworks together. And then this can be the agenda. As I said, the cyclical and the structural one. It's also about the question which is going to be the continuous one, which is going to last for a longer period of time, and also the three principles of reframing the market. If you still compete with the same market structure, you're probably not heading good. Okay, we need to ask questions also. And what kind of questions can we ask? Now, it's not good to say that there are no complaints, because if you have withdrawn a complaint box, there would be no complaints. Okay, so framing questions is going to be another tough challenge. And it's someone most important to underappreciate the strategy of the development. Questions are the lens which will help you identify the problems. But how are we going to question them? Like, let's say, for example, again, we are the HRD forum, and if we just ask people questions, then there are different forms of questions which will help you. There are certain questions which are more purposeful, and there are certain questions which are less purposeful. Like, why is a very purposeful question? How is a very purposeful question? What is a purposeful question? But who, when, where, which, yes, no questions, these are less purposeful. Let's see. Are you satisfied with the working conditions? What can be the answer?
Yes or
yes no. Yes or no. And it doesn't serve you purpose. So maybe you are reconfirming whether people are happy or they are not happy. But it doesn't give you any recommendation. But if you structure your question as to when have you been most satisfied with the working relation, it's a more purposeful question. People will come out as to when they were really satisfied with the working relationship. So instead of asking questions in the organization also that are you happy with our product or are you happy with something, let's try and ask that when have you been most satisfied with something. Let us make it a little more purposeful. What is that about working relationship that's most satisfying? So now it is the customer orientation which is telling you that what you should do. Am I making myself clear?
Yes.
So if we really want to go for evidence, we cannot get it with less purposeful questions. We have to ask more and more purposeful questions. So what is it about the working relationship that you find most satisfying? Probably they will give you some evidence that by virtue of which you can make people more and more satisfied. You can also ask them, why might it be that the working relationship has its ups and downs? Look at the power of these purposeful questions. And every organization, when you are creating new things, just concentrate on these things. The questions are the fine lens which will give you what evidence to look for. And this evidence, eventually, you can develop in your systems. And if I follow these systems, maybe my workers are happy. If I follow this, maybe the customers are happy. If I follow this, maybe the other stakeholders are happy. Or the network that I'm developing, within that network, people are happy. If we are going by that, then these questions will help you better. Now, this strong organizational performance are fueled not by isolated intervention. So, again, giving the same thing, two traps. In isolation, we all know the story. When people are doing it in isolation, that's not helping. The same point I'm trying to make, that use all these frameworks, but don't use them in isolation. So what we are doing here is that we fail to give a complete picture if we are just having isolation intervention. Let these interventions be at the organization level. And similarly, the other trap is, many times we wonder whether all ants can pull the elephant together. But if they are put together, maybe they can. But at the same time, what is needed is that how you are pulling the elephant, how the elephant is tied. So it is the system that you are following. If you just try and pull one leg, again, that's not going to happen. So these frameworks are, again, don't use them in isolation. What we are saying is that others have a preference. So whatever we find is useful for us, we employ that. So care should be taken that what is visible is not the evidence. Evidence you will have to search for. What is visible is obvious. Go beyond that obvious, and then the interventions will be better. A single practice is generally inspired by implementing in isolation. So do not follow that single thing. And this approach ignores the contemporary organizational practices also. Look at the complementary effects that all these things have. And if we are doing that, recheck whether these are helping in your organization. To motivate employees, carrot and stick is not helping. In isolation, all these KPIs, key performance indicators, they are also not helping. That's not making people, not motivating them to work enough. Relying on a detailed strategy or complete detailed strategy, but eventually when we see that it's again not helping, and command and control leadership. Even command and control leadership is also not living up to its reputation. What we see is that there has to be inspirational motivation, inspirational leadership. And for this, there are three things which I want you to talk about. When we are talking about accountability, let's have an example of Yuvraj Singh. When he was told that what is his accountability, he was always worried that I'm not scoring century, I'm not scoring century. But when he was told that your job is not to score a century at number 5, number 6, your job is to finish the match, he realized that what is his need in the team. And then his performance started improving. Whatever. I mean, look at it, what has been done. So evidence was that probably he had different motivation. And evidence is that at number 5 or 6, you can't think of scoring a century. And if that is not, am I making meaningful difference to the side? Perhaps yes. And more by virtue of finishing the matches. So look at your employees, give them the accountability that this is your job, and probably they will be better off. Direction, articulate a compelling vision for future. I always believe this story of Lagan is a story of Indian industry. It came in 2001, but it was always a story of Indian industry. We do not have enough time for that. But this guy became an accidental leader. He was never a leader by choice. In Lagan, we are talking about Bhuvan. He was forced. It was not by choice. It was by compulsion. But what he did after becoming a leader is articulated a compelling vision for others. Otherwise, these people were not even willing to fight. And they were completely demotivated. He gave them a reason to do that. So if these things are done, the organizations have a better future as well. And culture is what the environment encourages: openness, trust, challenge, etc. If these are there, people are highly motivated. So these three basic practices organization should really look at. Clear roles as to what their employees have based on the evidence that you have. Inspiring vision. The vision must inspire all these people, and also the openness and trusting culture to interact to create complementaries. If these things happen, look for the evidences that you want, give these to employees, and they will perform better. There could be just a few things, but these are relatively more theoretical, what direction should be. We cannot neglect these. Though we are looking at the evidence, I'm still suggesting that you have to have a direction with respect to vision, with respect to strategy and engagement. Leadership, there will be certain community leadership, there will be command and control leadership, patriarchal also. It's not that they are not needed in the organization, they are definitely needed. This cannot be neglected. Similarly, you cannot neglect the environment and values. You also cannot neglect the accountability. So look at your structure and role design, look at the performance contracts that you are going to have with employees, look at the consequence management and personal obligations that people have. Look at the coordination and control. Look at the capabilities that these people have. Also the motivation, whether leader can do it, the values, opportunities, and the incentives that you are giving, and then the external orientation. Always look at the evidence that customers tell you that this is what they are looking forward to. Look at the competitors that where they are heading for. They are giving you a big insight as to where the competition strategies will be. Similar thing with your businesses and partners and government and community. We cannot neglect these. And innovation. Today we are in the world where the innovations are every day, and we cannot neglect any of these innovations also. Ideas can come externally, top down, bottom up, cross pollination, all these ideas can come. The event, if you have any questions, feel free, we can take a few questions. This is what primarily I want to talk to you about, evidence-based management. There is going to be evidence. There already is a lot of evidence. What we have to look at is, look at that evidence, internalize it within the organization, let it go to your employees, let employees come back to you on that, have a clear vision, clear accountability and engagement. If that happens, then probably the pulling together of the frameworks will help. But one framework in isolation is unlikely to help any organization way forward. Yes, you can have questions.
Do you have any questions?
How do you get this evidence?
Yes, you have to very closely monitor. I mean, as I said that, every time when you're looking for evidence, like let's say for example, if it is with respect to the employee, am I audible?
Yes.
If you're looking at motivating your employees, look at what is motivating them. And if we ask them that does financial motivation help, probably the answer will be no. So as I said, you have to frame questions like that. So when have you been most motivated? Then people will say that which working conditions they were motivated, what incentives motivated them. Sometimes it is the recognition. And let me also tell you, sometimes it is the recognition of the spouse which also helps. I mean, in one organization we did that when there was an annual ceremony. So that time we gave more incentives to the spouse. And the pressure was that next year also I want the similar thing. So the pressure did not come vertically. So pressure did not come vertically. So if I am recognized, if the spouse feels that I am recognized for your contribution in the organization, keep performing better and better, so that I am also recognized. So that's why I said that many times it is not the vertical pressure. There is a limit to which people and employees can absorb vertical pressure. So if you're seeing that movie Modern Times, well, you will see that what modern times are, but that's not going to help. So identify which factors are motivating. Today even stock options probably may not motivate people. But if it is personal growth, give them promise that this is what your personal growth would be. Probably they are more motivated by that.
And what should be the frequency of correcting the evidence?
Continuous. I mean, it cannot be that we want to identify the evidence 6 years, 6 months down the line, or quarterly we will review it. The day the evidence is there, it should be incorporated in the system. Because these evidences are a continuous process. So the moment it changes, you have to accept it and internalize it in the organization.
But how difficult or easy it is to have continuously, getting evidences? Or
No.
maybe going in for that?
No, it is daily you are monitoring it. And then it is like invention and innovation. Invention is something that has happened. Innovation is putting it to application. So what you have observed every day, it doesn't mean that that is the evidence. You have to convert that evidence into a meaningful application. So if somebody has, let's say, any invention for that matter, but then that invention becomes innovation when you are putting it to some kind of a commercial application. So that's how. You have observed something, so that observation, as I said, some of the tests, like whether it is cyclical or it is permanent. If it's going to be permanent, then it is time that you very quickly react to it. And then convert that evidence into a meaningful information for the organization, which can be used for either your product lines or maybe for employee motivation or any other resource that you are planning.
And that is continuous observation.
Continuous observation and then giving it a right perspective so that it can be internalized in the organization for application.
Thank you.
As you said, the motivation factor for an employee.
Sorry, come again, please.
Motivation factor for an employee. So that will keep changing time to time.
Yes.
The time when he joins the organization, motivation factor would be different. But as he grows in the organization over a period of time, that motivation factor would be different.
Yes.
So do we need to keep track of what is the motivation changing scenario of the motivation factor in the particular employee?
Yes, that is what I said. Money ceases to be a motivating power after some time. So probably if a person has reached to a particular level, money will not necessarily motivate that person. So if that person is looking forward to making meaningful difference to the organization, then give him the responsibility of making that difference. And the moment you give them that opportunity, probably they see opportunity for a personal growth. And that personal growth is a motivation for them. So money ceases to be a motivating power after some time. Money is definitely needed. I'm not saying that money is not needed. It is needed, but it ceases to be motivating power. So at that time, you have to give them additional responsibility or some meaningful, some purpose by virtue of which they can continue to contribute to the organization. So there are examples where people have left and joined the organization at a lesser salary simply because they were in a position to make some difference to their life and maybe the life of others. And there are a lot of examples for that.
But then, isn't 90% of the market still working on the old characteristics?
That's where the problem is that when that happens, we probably are not making enough of profits.
Because if you see with the founder of Infosys itself, they might have left control of the company to other people, but they still have a massive holding to influence changes over there. Like you see Mr. Sikka's removal from Infosys. The founders were just willing to let go of the company to grow.
That's right. But again, I mean, this is what absolutely on a personal note. Right? No, as I said, right in the beginning, that we are not giving any verdict about the poor management of organizations.
It's not about the people don't want to let go of their own.
It does happen in either a very closely held organization or a proprietary organization. It does happen. I mean, not necessarily person has to be an outsider. Even at many times, a person's father may not let his control go to his son also.
Definitely.
Many times it does happen, and even in corporate examples are there, where somebody says that I could take out a scooter from the market, but not from my father's mind. Even that happens. So in these cases, the leadership has to be so inspirational that people understand that this is where the future is. And when they realize it, after that probably people support you. So if you realize that there is no future in this particular market, you must move to another market, then one who understands that market is a better leader. And you have to let them do. In case of Infosys, the problem is not with respect to the competence, it was more with respect to governance. Right? I mean, whatever we have read in the press, I'm also giving, what I'm trying to answer your question is only what I have read in the press. So in many cases, it is the governance issue that this organization should be governed with these values, these ways, and not something else. And that is bound to happen. I mean, probably the similar thing happened in case of Tata's also. Similar thing happened globally. So in certain cases, these things do happen. But it is not about giving a personal control. It is also about the governance. And then the commitment towards employees. So either way, it was commitment to the employees, the governance, and not the profitability of the organization. So there are certain different issues also which have to be dealt with. Again, as I said, my objective of naming few firms is not to give any verdict that they were poorly managed or they were exceptionally well managed. It is for our understanding so that eventually we can incorporate some of these things.
Ashutosh, you're doing a management research also as well. Like few of the cases, even if the evidences are available, it's so late or delay is there, so nothing can be done. Like in case of Nokia or in case of Kodak cameras, you can say.
Yes.
They become outdated, suddenly they become outdated rather. The enough time was also not there actually. I mean, what could have been done, your research might have been carried out on that. Nokia or Kodak, what they could have done early so that they could have been there in the market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Companies not there, but the first thing that happened with us, that time on deputation I was working with Xerox Corporation. When Bill Gates articulated his vision of paperless office, the first question was for Xerox, what is our future? Because if office is going to be paperless, then photocopying business, where will it go? By then his dream had not become reality. It was just his dream. He dreamed that there can be office, there can be a computer on every desk which is connected with every other computer on, and then paperless offices. It has not become reality. But the first thing he said is, this is my dream. Then Xerox started wondering about it. If his dream becomes reality sometime down the line, what will happen to our business? So they had to relook at their vision. And then their business also. So are we in a photocopying business or we want to be in the office documentation business? Because documents will still be there. Maybe they will be stored digitally. So the moment you see that somebody is visualizing something, then what will be the impact on that? So the moment there was digitization, the moment digitization happened, some of the companies very quickly realized that it can impact our business. So if office is going to be paperless, Kodak should have realized that if there is no paper, then how there will be photographs also. So if there are no photographs, then what is the future of photographic equipments with which we are taking chemical images? So if we are taking chemical images and these chemical images will be completely replaced with digital images, so they should have started investing in that particular thing at that moment. And same thing with respect to Nokia also. That's why I think that many times we get up into that wishful thinking. Okay, and the power of digitization, probably many people did not realize it at that moment. And I'm not saying again that Kodak was poorly managed or Xerox had a better vision. I'm not saying that. Again, not for the praise also. Fine. Whatever we are trying, it's for our understanding. So we have to look at all these things. Now, the moment it happened, today also we look at what people are doing. They do not have their marriage album. It's on Facebook.
Yeah.
So your courtship, everything is on Facebook and for people to watch. So the similar thing happened with magnetic tapes also. So Sony, which was considered as a next generation technology company, they also failed to understand the impact of digitization. They still remained with magnetic tapes for audio as well as video cassettes. And very quickly, the way it has replaced, it's phenomenal. And already Bill Gates has said that he wants to digitize everything, including the rheostats also. So the fan regulators, etc. So all these companies should right now start building on this.
Yeah.
So he said that it will be no more analog technology. Look at VAIO, the way VAIO it is there. So that VAIO, it actually is, the first is a wave, which talks about the analog technology, and then 1 and 0, which is digital technology. So Sony adopted to it very late. So that's where the evidence people have to look at. So the moment somebody articulates his dream or her dream, our job is to see what impact that dream is going to have on our businesses. Whether it has become a reality or no, it's later on. But at least it has a potential to impact our business, so we should very quickly look at it.
So whatever examples you have taken, they are of all big companies.
Exactly.
So what about, because most of us, those who are present here are from medium or small scale.
I knew.
So I think, what is their advice?
That's why, I gave the establishment of every company. Okay, whether it is Walmart or any company, probably they manage their businesses more by the evidence that they have. So, look at 2006, this company has come up, Patanjali. But today they don't consider all the other companies as competitors. For them, the multinationals are competitors. And 2006, by then all these companies were established companies. It's not that they were not established. So even for SMEs also, my big suggestion to SMEs is that you are the one who are extremely savvy with the customer. You're directly in touch with the customer. Look at their pain points. And all these big multinationals do not have enough time to look at every single pain point that a customer has. They are generalizing the pain points of the customer. And that is why I gave examples of these. These companies are 30-year-old, 40-year-old, some of them are 60-year-old. But what level they have achieved? And we have many companies which are establishments for 30-year-old, 40-year-old, but we are not even half of that. Because probably somewhere we have lacked identifying that evidence. Even Facebook felt threatened because of WhatsApp. And that's why they acquired it. So SMEs also, there are many pain points that customers do tell. But we are also of the opinion that if these companies are not doing, why should I do? And when we do not do it, we miss a bus. And I do agree size also, because in certain cases it so happens, I was doing consultants to one firm, and I told them that you minimize the customer pain point. It was with respect to mobilizing funds. So I said, why don't you minimize the customer pain point of mobilizing funds through bank by doing their documentation, bank documentation, etc. So I appointed a person, started doing that, and they were well off. But the day the larger company realized that this is what they are doing, they appointed 4 persons to do the same thing. Okay, and again, he had another pain point. So the pain points are there. I'm not saying that they are not there, but that's what the business is all about. But the more you identify the shift that is taking place and what you can identify and address to, then probably there is a scope for improvement continuously. And all these companies also started from garage. Whatever big companies that we are talking about, all these, even Patanjali also started very, very small. But then certain, they captured better.
Cycle.
Yeah.
He used to sell the Chandragram cycle.
Yes, I mean, even many of them. I mean, I also know some of the companies also, they had that lotion for, I don't want to name that, because now it's a very big company, but they also started going on bicycles only. And then giving it to the retailers. Retailers were not supporting much initially, so somehow they could overcome it. But once they have done it, they are doing very well.
I think none of the FMCG could have realized the potential that Patanjali would take over.
That's right, because what they also ignored evidence is that there are so many herbal companies,
Yeah.
but none of them would threaten them.
Yes.
So they had no reason to consider that evidence.
Yes.
But the day suddenly Baba Ramdev realized, and he did not go with a selling proposition, he went with a holistic selling proposition. And that helped more. Even today, if you ask multinationals, they're on the face of it, they are saying that it is a localized problem in India. But how quickly it will go to the other countries, they probably may not think about it.
In fact, Colgate has also come with
Yes.
charcoal and salt
Yes.
Ved Shakti.
All of them. All of them.
They have now, I think,
Separate
started.
herbal line.
HUL has that Ayush brand and
Ayush
other things, etc.
Pepsi, Coca-Cola has come out with their lemon and all this.
Yeah, Nimbu Pani.
Nimbu Pani.
Nimbu Pani. So all of these, they have to do it, because that's where the market is heading toward. There's a clear evidence that this is where they are going. But then how do you do it is also equally important.
And now I invite Hemanji Nora to please sum up today's proceedings.
How many of you thinking that the age is increasing? Average age, 40 साल, 45 साल, 50 साल, 60 साल, everyone thinks like that. but I don't think the average is reducing actually. पहले हम जो 5000 साल में सोचते थे वो 500 साल में होने लग गया, जो 500 साल में सोचते 50 साल में हो गया, जो 50 साल में सोचते 5 साल में हो गया. And now things are changing so fast actually. Very fast, right? So the age of whether the product, the company, the everything is reducing, and for that we have to find the evidences. The word evidences, actually I got also confused as हमारे VP से confused हो गए थे कि evidence हम क्या accountant है, chartered accountant, तो evidence हमेशा वो voucher में और उसमें ढूंढते हैं. But